Chapter 1. The fire and the foglets dispense with metaphors. The house is not on fire, the world is. You are not imagining the decay. You are a witness to its methodical demolition. You see the very bedrock of civilization, the nuclear family being pulverized. A mother and father raising their own children has been reframed from the norm into a novelty, an act of quiet rebellion. Into the vacuum left by this sacred broken bond, a new order rushes in. Gangs have become the new family, the new tribe, offering a brutal and distorted reflection of the loyalty and belonging that was stolen from a generation. The consequences of this war spill from the broken home directly onto the pavement. You see the streets filling with a brazen criminal element, the logical outcome of a world without fathers. You witness a revolving door justice system, a cruel joke that releases rapists in months while the parole and probation departments, deliberately starved of funding and drowning in cases, have functionally useless. You see the lifeblood of your community draining away, one boarded-up storefront at a time, while public agencies designed to serve the people are bled dry. Their resources diverted to a machine that produces only compliance and control. This is the ground-level, undeniable reality. The world is going to shit outside your window. But the vast majority of the population sees none of this chaos. Or worse, they have simply gotten used to it. A terminal apathy has set in, the quiet, corrosive mantra of a dying society. If it's not them, it doesn't affect them. This indifference is by design. They have been driven indoors, trapped in the perfect, brutal loop of modern servitude at work, laboring for a currency that is constantly being devalued. And in the slivers of time that remain, completely sedated by the screen. This containment and apathy are the perfect environment for the weaponized narrative pushed through their cell phones. It is a constant, intravenous drip of isolation, division, and corruption. An indoctrination campaign so total that it has become the background radiation of our lives. It is a digital poison designed to atomize society, to poison young minds before the window can form a coherent thought, and to ensure that no one ever looks up from their device long enough to see the bars of their own cage, to see both the fire on the streets and the apathetic fog that keeps everyone indoors is not paranoia. It is clarity. It is the agonizing, isolating state of being the only sober person in a room full of addicts, watching them praise the dealer while the floorboards rot beneath them. This book is a matchstick to burn away the fog. It is a forensic investigation for the sane. We will not debate the official narratives. We will dissect them as the calculated lies they are. We will identify the arsonists who lit the fire and the engineers who pumped the fog. We will trace the decay you see on the streets back to its ancient, spiritual source. We will map the architecture of this controlled demolition, from the corruption of our justice system to the inversion of our very souls. To understand how the world is controlled, you must understand the magic trick. It's a simple illusion with two parts. The first is the distraction, the fire on the streets that you're meant to watch. The second is what the magician is doing while you're not looking. He's turning the audience into a trick. This is the secret. The system's prison isn't just being built around you. It's built inside your neighbors, your friends, and your family. The most effective prison is the one where the prisoners guard each other. You have heard the phrase dumb as a rock. The system's goal is to turn the population into smart rocks. It wants them solid, unthinking, and silent, but with just enough programming to repeat whatever they are told. This is the true meaning of the eyes in the rocks. The people are the rocks, and the "yeah" is the ghost in their heads. The voice on their phone that tells them what to think, what to hate, and what to fear. The cell phone is the needle, and the 24-hour stream of news, social media, and algorithm-fed outrage is the drug. This drug doesn't just distract people. It physically rewires their brains. It trains them to stop thinking for themselves and to start outsourcing their opinions to the machine. They become gullible users, walking terminals for a central computer. The screen tells them to be afraid of a new virus, and they are terrified. The screen tells them that their neighbor who voted differently is a monster, and they learn to hate. The screen changes the definition of a man or a woman overnight, and they dutifully change their language. When you argue with someone who is mindlessly repeating a headline, you are not talking to a sovereign human being. You are talking to a rock. The AI has possessed them. They are its mouthpiece. This is why this system is so stable. Its foundation is not armies or laws. It is the unshakable programmed belief of billions of talking rocks who do not even know they are a foundation. They are the living stones of their own prison. To be a witness is to refuse to be a rock. It is the holy and dangerous act of thinking for yourself before we can expose what the system is telling everyone to believe. You must first accept the horrifying truth of how it works by turning the people you love into its puppets. Chapter 3: The Shepard Fallacy. The system of control we are witnessing is not a random, chaotic failure of human institutions. A machine this perfect in its destructive purpose cannot be an accident. It has an architect. It has a will. The fire you see on the streets was not lit by incompetence. It was lit by a conscious and supremely intelligent arsonist. To understand this enemy, you must first understand his primary weapon. It is not a bomb, a law, or a currency. It is the power to create a fallacy, a deceptive and misleading argument that hijacks the truth, twisting its meaning without ever touching the thing itself. The architect of our prison, the entity we will call the Shepard, the devil. The father of lies cannot create. Creation is the domain of Elohim. The Shepard can only mock, corrupt, and counterfeit what has already been created. He is a spiritual parasite, and his art is the construction of beautiful fallacies that led to damnation. Once you understand this tactic, you will see his signature everywhere. Consider the swastika. For millennia, it was a global symbol of peace and divinity. The Shepard built a fallacy around it, a twisted argument of racial purity and ancient heritage. In the space of a decade, he convinced a nation to accept this fallacy, transforming a sacred symbol into the most potent emblem of hatred in the modern world. Consider the rainbow. This was the symbol of God's covenant, his promise of mercy after the flood. The Shepard has executed his most audacious fallacy by hijacking this symbol and making it the global banner for the Pride movement. He has taken a symbol of God's promise and, through a deceptive argument of love and identity, has turned it into a celebration of the original sin, the very pride that caused Lucifer's fall. Finally, consider the most intimate fallacy of all, the corruption of love into lust. Love, in its true form, is an expression of Elohim's creative, self-sacrificial will. It builds families and civilizations. The Shepard has constructed a powerful fallacy that argues this true love is a prison. He then offers his counterfeit, the selfish, consumptive, and sterile impulse of lust, and presents it as liberation. This is the nature of the war. The Shepard is a master logician, an architect of fallacious arguments. He is constantly working to replace every truth, every virtue, and every sacred symbol with a beautiful, reasonable, and utterly damnable counterfeit. His goal is to create a world where humanity, given a choice between a difficult truth and an easy fallacy, will willingly choose the fallacy because it has been programmed to see it as the more enlightened path. To be a witness is to become a demolition expert of these fallacies. It is the act of seeing things not with their imposed, counterfeit meaning, but with the inherent, eternal truth given to them by their Creator. Chapter 4: The Governor of Governors and the Two Commissions. A system of total deception cannot exist in a vacuum. It must constantly fight against the very fabric of reality, a reality governed by an unchangeable divine order. The Shaper's war is not being waged against humanity alone. It is a rebellion against the ultimate authority, the source code of all creation. This ultimate authority, the force the Shepa is at war with, is the governor of governors. This is not a king who sits on a distant throne. The governor of governors, Elohim, is the operating system of reality itself. Its laws are not suggestions, they are immutable principles. They are the constants that the Shepa, with all his power, can only build fallacies about but never truly change. The conflict between these two forces is defined by the two commissions they offer to humanity. 1. The two commissions, Steward versus Master. At the dawn of creation, humanity was given a commission in the Garden of Eden. They were offered a choice between two ways of being, symbolized by two trees. The tree of life, the way of the steward. To eat from this tree was to accept the original commission, to be the steward of the earth. A steward knows he is not the owner. He is a caretaker, accountable to the true owner God for the health of the garden. His is a life of trust, communion, and harmony with God's design. This is Elohim's commission. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, the way of the master. The Shaper's counteroffer was the apple, a beautifully packaged fallacy. It was the promise that humanity could be like God, that they could fire the owner and promote themselves from steward to master. To eat the fruit was to seize the power to judge reality for oneself, to label things good or evil based on one's own self-interest. This is the Shaper's commission, and humanity accepted it. The entire history of the world since is the story of self-proclaimed masters running amok in a garden they no longer understand. But their rebellion is futile, because the garden still operates under the three foundational laws of its true owner. 2. The law of natural design. Everything in creation has a purpose. Male and female are a complementary binary. The family is the bedrock of society. An act that violates this design is what the scriptures call an abomination, not an insult, but a technical term for a self-terminating system error. 3. The law of consequence. The Shepherd can change the meaning of an act, but not the outcome. You can build a society that poisons its food and water, but its people will still get sick. The law of consequence is the impartial judge that ensures reality always has the final say. 4. The law of the witness. The truth can be buried, but it cannot be destroyed. The governor has embedded the potential for his own discovery within the human spirit. As long as a single mind exists that is capable of independent thought, the Shaper's entire system of lies is at risk of being exposed. You are the governor's fail-safe. These laws are the pillars of reality. The Shaper's entire kingdom is a violation of them, which is why it is doomed to fail. Chapter 5. The Shaper's puppet's Shepa is the architect of the prison, but he's a master who never gets his own hands dirty. His will is made manifest on Earth through a network of powerful, interlocking institutions that dance to his tune. These are not independent bodies acting out of incompetence or greed alone. They are hollow vessels, animated by a single will. They are the Shaper's puppets. A puppet appears to have a life of its own. It has a name, a title, a stated purpose that is often benevolent. But its every action is controlled by the unseen puppeteer pulling the strings. Understanding that the institutions you are taught to trust are nothing more than puppets is the final step in seeing the architecture of the lie. While there are countless minor puppets, the master's primary control is exercised through a few key players on the world stage. 1. The health puppets whose CDC, FDE the performance. They perform the role of protectors, pretending to care for public health. The strings. Their strings are pulled to serve the agenda of the great poisoning. They systematically suppress natural cures while mandating profitable, patented drugs from their corporate partners. They are the puppets used to create a population that is perpetually sick and dependent. 2. The information puppets mainstream media, big tech, public education, the performance. They perform the role of journalists, educators, and connectors. The strings. Their strings are pulled to generate the fog of the great programming. They control the flow of information, shape public perception, and wage a relentless war on critical thinking. They are the puppets used to create a population so thoroughly indoctrinated that it polices itself. 3. The financial puppets, central banks, the Fed, IMF, Wall Street, the performance. They perform the role of ensuring economic stability and prosperity. The strings. Their strings are pulled to administer the great theft. They wield a fraudulent, debt-based currency as a weapon, using inflation to silently transfer all wealth from the working class to the unelected financial elite. They are the puppets who will eventually offer the CBDC as the solution to the very crisis they were designed to create. 4. The geopolitical puppets, UN, NATO, CFR, etc. The performance. They perform the role of promoting peace and international cooperation. The strings. Their strings are pulled to provide the structural and military enforcement for a globalist agenda. NATO is not a defensive alliance. It is the puppet army of the beast. The UN is the puppet theater where the illusion of international consensus is staged. These are not separate entities. They are a collection of dolls in the same toy box. When you see a statement from the WHO, echoed by the BBC, justified by a UN resolution, and funded by a central bank, you are not seeing a complex interplay of independent actors. You are watching a single puppeteer make all of his dolls dance at once. You are seeing the will of the Shepa made manifest on Earth. In the last chapter, we identified the Shaper's puppets, the faceless institutions that execute the will of the system. But puppets do not move on their own. They are controlled by puppeteers. A system of total control is not an accident of history. It is the product of a deliberate, multi-generational design. To understand the crimes we are about to investigate, we must first open the case files on the primary architects of the prison. Case file number 1. The financiers, the Rothschilds, and the Morgans. Subheading: The masters of the great theft. This section details how the Rothschilds from Europe and the Morgans, their American counterparts, seized control of the world's financial system. We cite the Balfour Declaration as proof of the Rothschilds' geopolitical power and the Morgans' role in creating the corporate monopolies and the Federal Reserve. Case file number 2. The technicians, the Warburgs and the Rockefellers. Subheading: The designers of the great programming. This section exposes the how-to. We detail Paul Warburg's central role in designing the Federal Reserve on Jekyll Island. We then expose the Rockefellers' General Education Board, using their own chilling quotes to prove their stated goal of crushing critical thought and creating a nation of obedient laborers. Case file number 3. The Profiteers, the DuPonts. Subheading: The engine of perpetual war. This section introduces the military-industrial complex through the lens of the DuPont family. We show how their fortune, built on gunpowder and war, established the symbiotic, parasitic relationship between the government and the merchants of death who require constant conflict to thrive. Case file number 4. The royalty, the black nobility. Subheading: The capstone of the lie. This final section touches on the more shadowy, spiritual top of the pyramid. We discuss the ancient European royal bloodlines and their ideology of sovereignty by blood. We mention the secret Bilderberg meetings as the modern-day forum where the unelected, hereditary masters coordinate the actions of their political and corporate puppets. Conclusion: The interlocking directorate, These are not separate dynasties operating in a vacuum. They are an interlocking network. They intermarry, they sit on the same corporate boards, and they fund the same foundations. They are the human infrastructure of the deep state, the multi-generational architects who have been patiently building the global prison for over a century. Now, let us examine their crimes.